Wow, it works.
Hey, I'm Danette.
And I'm Pat.
And we're here with gfcook.com to make you something new. This is my new favorite.
My birthday carrot cake.
And I made the recipe. I'm not good at following other people's directions, so I made it up. And it turned out pretty good. And so we're going to share it with you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, for ingredients, we're going to use 2 eggs. I prefer farmer's market or organic eggs. 1 cup sugar, half a cup oil, 1 cup of carrots, and you can use shredded, pre-shredded. I'm using canned carrots that come packed in water.
Oh, fresh from the garden?
Fresh from the garden would be fantastic. Half a cup mandarin oranges, half a cup raisins. I'm actually going to use probably 3/4 of a cup. I like lots of raisins. Coconut, and the raisins and coconut are optional, so if you don't want them, don't add them. Probably 3/4 cup of coconut as well, but you could use half if you want to be more conservative. 1 1/4 cup of gluten-free flour. I'm going to use just about half of that is going to be a pancake mix that I use all the time, and the other half is going to be a multi-blend gluten-free flour. Half a teaspoon salt, 2 teaspoons baking powder, half a teaspoon cinnamon, and half a teaspoon nutmeg. I'm going to grate both the cinnamon and the nutmeg fresh, but you don't have to. You could also add walnuts to this recipe if you want to. I know a lot of people like nuts in their carrot cake, but again, that's an optional ingredient. We're going to bake it at 350 degrees for 40 minutes, and I'm going to ice mine with a buttercream frosting, and I'll show you how to make that too. Okay, so the first thing is 2 eggs. I like farm fresh or organic if you can get it. So 1 cup sugar. Alright, now there were some lumps in the sugar. Doesn't matter because we're actually going to blend it right now. And the reason you want to do that is to cream together the sugar and the eggs. This is my favorite silicone spatula, and it's damaged, but I keep it around because it still works just fine. Just scrape down the sides so that you don't have any sugar or eggs stuck to the side. Your eggs will turn kind of a pale yellow, and that's when you're ready. Now the reason you cream together the sugar and the eggs, as you can see, it's already getting little bubbles in it, little air bubbles. That's going to help with the lift to the cake. Alright, next we need half a cup of oil. We're using half a cup of extra light olive oil, but you can use any kind of oil that you like. 1 cup of carrots. Now, I have a baby in the house, so we just happen to have these on hand. If you can get fresh carrots and grate them up yourself, that'll be fantastic, but these were easy and quick, and it actually works really well in this recipe. As soon as we put the blender on these little guys, they'll get broken down. The next thing is going to be mandarin oranges. I'm just gonna, again, I have these little handy packs, so I'm gonna drain these off. Just give them a quick drain. So we've got mandarin oranges. In addition to that, we're going to use a fresh orange. Now this is where your orange juice is going to come from. If you don't have an orange on hand, you don't have to add any of this stuff. This is just my preference. Instead of using the juice from the mandarin oranges, I'm going to juice this guy right here for about 2 tablespoons of juice. So not the whole orange, but a good amount of it. And I like to use the zest because it adds so much flavor. So we're going to do that as well. If you don't have a zester or you don't have fresh oranges on hand, it's not going to make a huge difference. I just like the acidity of the fresh orange. And I like that zing that you get from the zest. I'm going to go ahead and zest the whole orange and juice it. Now I know that this orange doesn't have any seeds in it. It's one of those navel oranges. So I'm just going to juice it right into the bowl. Okay, now at this point, all you really want to look for is to make sure that you don't have any big chunks of orange or carrots. Alright, now we're going to add one more set of ingredients, and then we'll mix it one more time, and we're ready to pop it in the oven. Now this is going to go in a 350-degree oven for 40 minutes. 350 degrees. My last set of ingredients in here, we're going to have the dry ingredients, and we're going to have the optional ingredients. I love raisins in a carrot cake. I think that along with the spice and everything, they just go really, really well. And they plump up and get really juicy when you cook them, or when you bake them inside of a cake. So I like the texture it gives. I'm also going to do some grated coconut. Mine is sweetened, but if you can find unsweetened, go ahead and use that. This cake is plenty sweet enough to stand on its own. Also, I'm going to end up putting a buttercream icing on it, and that's going to add a lot of sweetness. Okay, so we've got raisins and coconut, about 3/4 a cup of each. I'm grating some fresh cinnamon, and we're going to add probably about a half a teaspoon of that. Alright, so we've got fresh cinnamon. I'm going to do fresh nutmeg as well. And you know, this is another one of those optional things. I recommend the spices for sure, but you don't necessarily have to grate them fresh. I just really love fresh spices. I think there's nothing like it. And when they sit in a can, they lose so much flavor because as soon as they're grated, the essential oils start to leak out of them. That's why they're so fragrant when you grate them yourself. We're going to do a half a teaspoon of the nutmeg to go with the cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, about a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use gray sea salt, but it really doesn't matter what kind you use. Alright, so I need 1.25 cups of flour. I'm going to use a half a cup of a multi-blend gluten-free flour. Just use whatever one you're comfortable with. Now the other 3/4 cup are going to come from my favorite pancake mix. And again, just use whatever you're comfortable with.
Are they both rice or some tapioca or?
Let me check. Okay, the pancake mix is brown rice flour, white rice flour, buttermilk, almond meal, tapioca starch, rice flour. The advantage to using the pancake mix is that I know that there are already a good blend of flours, and that's why you get such a good texture from it. This multi-blend gluten-free flour that I'm using is also brown rice flour, sweet rice flour, tapioca starch, xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is awesome. You want to have that in your gluten-free flour because it gives you it gives the gumminess that gluten adds. Okay, so one more blend with the mixer, and then we're ready to throw this in the oven. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit my baking dishes with a little bit of oil, non-stick spray. Mine's an olive oil one. I'm gonna do mine in pie pans, but you could also use one of these springform pans, and these are awesome. The bottom just pops off, and then you're left with a nice cake. The reason I'm using pie pans is because I want to do a layer cake. So the pie pans work just fine for popping them out one right on top of the other. Now I need my silicone spatula again to scrape down the sides of the bowl. Make sure you get all the flour mixed in, but you don't want to overbeat it. So I'd say that looks good. Everything is mixed in. We don't have any big chunks of carrot left over. We're good to go. So now we just need to dispense it evenly into the pie pans. So we'll do half in one pan. My oven's just now telling me that it's ready.
Fully preheated.
Fully preheated. Ready to go. And the other half in the other pie pan. This is going to rise quite a bit, so you don't really want to fill it up towards the top. Make sure that you've got room for it to rise. And I think I can put both of these on the top shelf. Okay, the cakes are going to be in there for 40 minutes at 350 degrees. are perfect. Alright, I'm gonna do it anyway because I want to show you the toothpick should come out clean. If you haven't got toothpicks, you can see how spongy this cake is. See, it springs right back. Okay, now you can see this has actually doubled in size from where they were filled up. So, you know, it gives you a good way to judge how high you want to fill up your cake pans or pie pans. Okay, so we just have to let these cool, and then we'll make some frosting and do them up.
This little safety pillow I put down in case he fell.
It's just 1 cup of butter, although we're using a lactose-free margarine instead. 2 cups of powdered sugar. You're going to cream this together, and then you add your teaspoon of vanilla and 1 to 2 tablespoons of whole milk or whipping cream, whatever you have on hand. Now you can see this has already paled a lot in color. There are 2 reasons for that. 1, you're pumping air into the margarine or butter, and 2, the powdered sugar is already white, so as they get combined, it's just lightening up the color. Okay, so you can see it's really pale in color, but it's really stiff. And so we're going to want to put something in there to lighten up the texture of it a little so that it'll spread on the cake without tearing it. So this is when you're going to add your vanilla. Go ahead and add it while the mixer is off so that it doesn't splash back up at you. I'm just eyeballing it. About a tablespoon of milk. And it can be milk or it can be heavy whipping cream. Either one I really think works just fine. It's basically just to thin it out anyway. Mix it all together again. And scrape the sides. Now this is actually the same spatula that I'm going to use for decorating my cake. I'm really fond of this silicone spatula, so I use it a lot. I don't have cake decorating tools because I really feel that what I have in my kitchen works just fine. Okay, now once you've got it to a frosting consistency, you're done. And you just have to wait for your cakes to cool and then frost them. And then we're going to finish them off with a little coconut sprinkled on, a lot of coconut sprinkled on the top. Alright, coconut. Remember I said we were going to put a lot of coconut on this cake. Now, here's where if your cake didn't turn out great looking, and see, I was a little impatient on mine, so I took it out of the pans before it was really ready. It doesn't matter too much because you're frosting it and you're topping it with coconut. So really, it's going to end up looking kind of messy in a good way anyway. Oh yeah.
Guys.
Is that awesome? Oh, did you hear that? More cake.
Alright, so this is a delicious carrot cake.
It really is, and you're just not gonna you're not gonna believe it until you try it. The flour is such a small portion of this cake that even if you don't have a favorite gluten-free flour, it's still gonna turn out with a great texture. The thing is, there's so much moisture coming from the carrots and the oranges that it's just fantastic. I hope you try it.
I will. Oh, so be sure to check periodically on the website, gfcook.com, for new episodes.
Oh.
Probably doing one every other month or so. And we got a DVD now. So if you like these episodes and you want to support our show so we'll be, able to make more of them, just go to gfcook.com.
Yep. Thanks for watching. This has been a Two Smart Guys production.
And you can also subscribe to iTunes. It'll deliver to you automatically.